want to thank you, distinguished honorable members, for electing me as the new speaker, pursuant to the resignation of Right Honorable Edison Ogren Ehie, DSSRS, PhD. There has been an avalanche of legislative rascality perpetrated by the 25 former members of the 10th River State House of Assembly, led by the former Speaker, Right Honorable Martins Chike Ameule. These former members, being fully aware of the provision of Section 1091 sub G of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressive Party, APC, and on 11th of December 2023, consequently, the Right Honorable Edison Ogren Ehie, on the 13th of December 2023, wrote to the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, declaring the seats of the 25 lawmakers vacant in line with Section 1091G and 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. Further, my distinguished colleagues, there are plethora of cases pending in our courts further to the defection of the former lawmakers. All laws, plenary sections, and actions taken by the illegal House are hereby declared void and a nullity in the eyes of the law.
A member, in fact, it is the leader of our own political party. And it would be foolhardy, to be stupidity on our part to sit down to see somebody way less than Mr. President insult Mr. President under our very nose. It is also an absurd to see the governor begin to espouse impunity, intimidation on the people who are members of our political party, and we stand akimbo doing nothing. We will sit here to see the governor declare on his own as if it's a law, it's a court. He has become Daniel that is sitting in judgment to declare assembly member seats vacant. To that extent, in consultation with my party, we have directed and we are directing, I want to let you hear, that we are directing the assembly members, APC members who are in the assembly, to immediately commence the impeachment of Governor Sim Fubara.
Welcome back. Politics gets our attention now. I call it the rivers of many twists and turns, and of course, quite a number of undercurrents driving those twists and turns. Many questions on the lips of Nigerians about how this will be resolved. Does the APC and Rivers reserve the powers to order that the State Assembly commence impeachment proceedings against the governor? And, with so many cases in court, how will these issues be resolved? Joining us for that conversation, perhaps to provide some form of legal insight into these matters, is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Professor Paul Ananaba. Professor Ananaba, thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Thank you.
I'd like us to start from that conversation on our sister political program yesterday with Professor Adango, former Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of Rivers State, who resigned his position after he was redeployed to the Office of Special Duties by the governor. And some of the things he said were to the effect that the governor was acting contrary to the agreement brokered by Mr. President as a solution to the political crisis. Following, just before that, the governor had challenged him for responding to a suit. I wonder what would be the position of a commissioner for justice. He was saying that, the governor has no right to educate him on how he should respond to a legal suit. It is his first assignment, to defend a suit in disobedience to his principal who employed him in the first place. Give us clarity as far as the legalese to that is concerned.
Right, thank you. The issue of Attorney General. The Attorney General of a state or the federation is occupying two positions. It's a Commissioner of Justice and it's also the Attorney General. As Attorney General, the Supreme Court says he's a lord unto himself. And as Commissioner for Justice, he's a commissioner and in the executive. So the only powers the governor has over an Attorney General is to remove him. The Attorney General, his position is provided for in the Constitution. It's not just a commissioner. So the reasonable thing to do is for the Attorney General to resign. And if he doesn't agree with what is asked to do, remember that the Attorney General is also answerable to the legal profession. He is a person whose position is provided for the Constitution, and the qualification for that office is provided for. No other commissioner enjoys that type of position, constitutionally speaking. So I don't see any Attorney General that is worth his salt giving an excuse for doing what he knows is wrong, giving the excuse that it is because the governor said, or a member of the citizen. No, you cannot give such excuse. He will do the right things. If there's a suit, he has the power to discontinue the suit, to stop the entering null, as we used to say. He has the power to instruct another legal practitioner or subordinates in your office or himself to appear. So it's just that people are using politics to try to destroy the fabric of the society, the fabric of the regulatory regime of the country. The Attorney General should not be distracted or disturbed in performance of his duties. It is in principle believes the Attorney General is no longer in his good doing according to his instruction, he removes him. That's all.
Prof, when you look at the issue of River State, sometimes it's difficult to put this or there from where to where. What I mean by that is the Constitution is very clear as to how the House of Assembly should be in terms of numbers, bounded upwards and downwards, as we say in mathematics, 24 as against 40 as a mask. And now we're seeing all this conundrum. There's an argument as to the legality or the legitimacy of the 26 members who defected. There's another person who has now emerged as a speaker, although we didn't see how he was elected. We even saw a release of the recognition of the governor of this particular speaker. I want you to speak to all of the fine lines of the legalese that everybody seems to be playing around and what is really going on in the eyes of the law as far as Rivers politics and the assembly is concerned.
Well, we've been through this road before. I thought that we had learned and that based on our learning, we will not go back. Like you said, sometimes you worry about this country. You get worried about the country because we are making ourselves laughing stock across the globe. These things are not being done just in Rivers. It's been aired, it's on the internet and people are reading across the country. How will an investor go to Rivers State now? How will he come to Nigeria, a country where this type of reports come from? And when politicians are taking positions, I expect them to know the effect of what they are doing on the average Nigerian and the African. Many times you hear international community describe Africa. Well, at some point we were said to be fantastically corrupt. Can you imagine that? So, as if every Nigerian is a criminal or is lawless or disrespectful. It's not true. So my first comment is that our politicians should imbibe and get enough dose of patriotism before they even take certain actions. Okay, the issue of the defection, the Supreme Court settled that in the federal court case. It was settled. If there is no crisis in your party and you defect, you lose your seat. That's the position of the law today. It has not changed. Now, it's not only that, but the speaker will have to declare the seats vacant and all that. In this case, like as you alluded to, these are many other issues are in court. And again, in the process of that, no law says that settlement of dispute must be through the court. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria intervenes, and people come together and discuss and reach an agreement. Why are they not respecting the agreement on the two sides? Why shouldn't they? Must we continue to be a laughing stock? Must Rivers State continue to be in the news every day? Or what award is Rivers State getting from this? This is a very good state. A state where many heroes and heroines of this country come from. Now,
Well,
why will, even from Enakoja and Adeleke, the Supreme Court also settled this issue of 2-3 members of House of Assembly going to take decision for the House. Why will 3 legislators go, or 4 go, and it's okay, one of them is now Speaker? What kind of democracy is that? And yet, it's been endorsed by the executive in that state. So we should call on the two parties to sheathe their sword and go back to the agreement with the president. I can imagine how the president will feel at this point that after the agreement he had reached with these parties, they will now go back to something else. And I want to state clearly, they are not doing this country any good. The parties involved now, they should go back to the intervention of the president, sheathe their sword, and sort out this problem. This problem should not continue.
Well, Prof, it's quite interesting. Pardon me, that you mentioned that agreement or the pact that was signed or brokered by the president. Remember, we had a conversation yesterday when we were asking one of the representatives of the governor's camp, the PDP, saying, do they still consider the peace pact as a working document? And to him, it was like, well, obviously, lots of the provisions there were not being upheld, so it's as well as a dead document. So whether or not that will be resurrected is another case. But I want you to speak to this. Over the past couple of weeks, months, the commentary has sort of ensured that each arm of government gets its own fair share of the blame, or at least the responsibility for what is happening. That is a more appropriate term it will be. So from the executive to the legislature and even the judiciary. So in cases like this, which of the arms do you expect to stand up, be matured about this, sort of put its feet down and say, well, this is what must be done? Which of the arms of government should be the matured one now?
Thank you. If you look at the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution are very wise. They were thoughtful. Section 4 has the legislator. Section 5, the executive. Section 6, the judiciary. It is not by an accidental action. What it means is that the judiciary is the last point and the final point. And it is what the judiciary says that is the law. And that is what we have as the American realist jurisprudence. It is what the courts say and nothing more that is the law. The courts must sit up now. I do not expect conflicting judgments to come. If there are, with the multiplicity of cases, the NJC must rise to the occasion and make it clear to the judges that if all judges must keep to their judicial ethics and code. The judiciary is in a position to resolve this crisis one way or the other. And in doing that, I expect that this matter should be given accelerated hearing. It should be given an accelerated hearing, heard from day to day, and determine one way or the other. These lingering issues are not helping anyone. So the House should act as a House of Assembly. The executive should act as an executive, as conceived by the Constitution. Even if there's a dispute between the head of the executive and the immediate past governor and all that, those should not disrupt the running of the state. Even in families, husband and wife can quarrel, parents and children can quarrel. That shouldn't be elevated to state quarrels or state disputes. Now I'm thinking that elders and statesmen in this country should rise at this stage to speak on this point and call all the parties to order. The president should now, at this stage, not just allow things to go, because you can imagine a situation where 3-4 people, what if the 3-4 persons are going to impeach the executive and all that? Would that be acceptable? So that's the point I'm making, that people should look at the consequences of what they're trying to do.
Well, Prof, earlier on you acknowledged that once an assembly lawmaker defects, they lose their seats. And while we really wait for one arm of government to be mature and take that step to resolve this, in the eyes of the law, can the state assembly members impeach the governor? Because it looks like that's where the conversation is pretty much concentrated on now.
Well, I'll speak for myself as well. I'm not a judge. If let me start a bit backward. The budgets being operated by the executive in River State, where did they get the powers for it? Who approved the budget? That's the question. You cannot pick and choose, you cannot somersault midway. There was a peace pact brokered by the president or whatever. Now, you recognize it, and everybody recognizes it and have flowed from it. There's another disagreement. You say, oh, yeah, the governor has no right to declare a House of Assembly illegal. There's no such right in the Constitution. He's the head of the executive to allow the judiciary to do its work. It's the judiciary that will interpret. And when I said the legislators will lose their seat, the Constitution goes forward to say that the Speaker of the House will declare them the seats vacant. And the person who is challenging that must be allowed to exhaust his right through the court system. So the issue of whether the members of the House can impeach will only be discussed after the judiciary has interpreted whether that defection amounts to losing their seat or not. That's how things run in a sane society.
So while it has not been determined, Prof, can the State Assembly, as it is constituted under the political agreement, can it impeach Governor Fubara?
I'm not going to answer in terms of impeachment. I'm going to answer in terms of, have they been lawfully carrying out their duties after they agreed the peace pact and they came back together and approved budget, and the budget is being spent? They've made laws which are being obeyed, pending when the court takes a final decision. Why will it get to other powers and you are saying, can they exercise it? It means that all persons who have spent the budget, money from the budget they approved, should return the money. Because it's
Prof,
unlawful.
all right, Prof. There's something I'd like you to speak to based on that resolution. Because when you think of River State, it's a combination of conundrum of absurdity here and there. Literally almost everybody being a law to himself, running around the fine lines of the law, because we know that the premise for their defection, as alluded by Matizami Ule, which is a subject of adjudication now, is the fact that the national secretary position of the PDP was in contention. Now, the court will be able to decide whether that was a good premise enough for them to defect. That's on one hand. On the other hand, is the fact that two provisions in that resolution seem to be the bone of contention. As a matter of fact, at face value, when that resolution was made public, a lot of people felt that the governor was under pressure to sign and all of that. But he came out to say, look, I'm going to follow through. I'm going to read the sixth provision. The governor of Rivers State, Sir Fubara, shall represent the state budget to properly constitute Rivers to a properly constituted River State House of Assembly. And then the number 8 says, there should not be a caretaker committee for local governments in River State. The dissolution of the local government administration is null and void and shall not be recognized. So I would like you to speak to this, because the governor, on the other hand, is arguing that as at the time he presented the budget to the House of 4, that was the right House of Assembly. And then when you look at the 8th provision, it feels like it's been encircled politically, which is why all of the unified consolidated amendment in the Local Government Act is being done. How should these two contentious peace item on the peace pact be resolved? Because that is where the problem is.
I'm not going to resolve those issues on the television, but I will just ask you a question. Last week, 10 days ago, was anybody making this argument? What happened between last week and now that has changed the situation? It's all politicizing the process. And the courts are not fit for political questions. It's a political question. The point I'm making is, all these are just the reasons people are bringing. That's not their main reason. It's a dispute between the immediate past governor and the governor. So all these ones are just trying to find a reason to give Nigerians. And it is very unfair to Nigerians to continue to do that.
So
I just asked the question last week. Last week, was this argument on the table?
Well,
it was not there. When gentlemen, you see, there's an admission against interest on the two sides. You have admitted that you signed this thing. You agreed. So what do you want the world to look at and believe about Nigerians? So let's call a spade a spade. You know, let's call it a spade a spade. We are now, who determines which of the assemblies is valid? Is it not the courts? It is the court. So, and most of these disputes are before the court. Why don't the parties wait? If they want to, the issue resolved through judicial process, let the courts decide finally which one is the right, which is the right house.
Quite a number of issues, really. But my concern here is, and sometimes you wonder, are the players, the major players, are they not thinking about these things? Is it as though we live in different worlds? So the concern is, if these major arms of government, different arms of government that you look up to resolve these issues, seem not to be resolving it. So what are the possibilities now? So what are the dangers? What are we sliding into if we keep seeing these law guys? I think we need to paint it out there.
The business of governance is suffering. Rivers State was once a state of reference. It's suffering. And I wouldn't say anything about it, but the Constitution envisages these things and has something, some provisions for it. If you check your Constitution, the president knows what his powers are. The National Assembly knows what their powers are. in a state where such intractable issues continue to go on. We've seen that sometimes in this state.
So Prof,
This country.
let me, pardon me. So, does this mean that River State is playing on the peripherals of state of emergency if these issues are not resolved?
And I told you, I said I won't make any pronouncement. I don't have to be cited about this matter. But I know that the Constitution provides for what the president should do if people refuse to be reasonable, what the National Assembly is supposed to do if people refuse to be reasonable, as is going on in that state now. I think that the statesmen in that state should become non-partisan across the country. Those who know the parties should speak to them, appeal to them in the interest of the River State, so that the state will continue on this path of progress. This is one state that has done very well in the past. They've had good governance continuous. They have had good governance. And I believe that the present governor is also a good person, a good governor. We should not allow whatever it is a dispute now to make Rivers State to be put in the dark. Rivers has been doing well, and they should continue to do well. They just need the president to call them back again, leaders in their parties to call them back, and then talk to them.
Well, Prof, besides the concern, about a possible constitutional crisis, there is also that very big one about this sliding into an ethnic sort of Cold War, between the people of the uplands and the Ijaw in Rivers State. You could refer to that visit by the former governor of Bayelsa State, during which he came with an entourage, to show solidarity with the governor. We could explain it away as, seeking stability with about the state of things in Rivers State, but it looks more like this sliding into a bigger, full-scale ethnic division between the peoples of Rivers. What do you see to be the consequences of this?
That's what politicians do. When they have their problems, they drag everybody into it, both at the River State now and in the entire country. Tomorrow they'll come together, they eat and wine and dine and wine and laugh at those of us who have spent our time to fight along lines. I do not think there's any ethnic issue there. It's just the politicians that want to make it ethnic. It's a dispute between two people. Where was the ethnicity when the immediate past governor chose the present governor over and above other people? There was no ethnic issue to raise. But now there's a dispute, there's an ethnic issue to raise. So let's de-emphasize the ethnicity. There's no ethnicity as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be. Rivers State is one state.
Prof, ideally, that's a way to look at it, but practically, it looks like that's a tone, because when you look at from 79 of the Okilos to Ada Judge in 93, and then you come upland to the likes of Dr. Peter Odili, and then to upland the queries as Rotimi Amechi, as well as Nyesom Wike, and now we have yet again another riverine man in the person of Siminala Fubara, and his deputy is some the upland Ikwere ethnic nationality or so, which is why that conversation is important, because that is why we raise the question of validity of impeachment or the other and what the Constitution says about that. That's why we want you to speak to the issue as much as possible to possibly see what can be done to resolve this before it goes that path, because going that path is going to be dangerous.
I retain my point that it's just the two big elephants fighting and dragging everybody to them. They should just de-escalate this problem and resolve it. And I was saying that Rivers people voted for this present governor, and they voted for those previous governors. They voted as a state, not by ethnic cards. The man who left He's from upland, and he felt that it is fair that the riverine person should be. So let's start from there and not from what is going on now, and say, because this power will also come to the upland again. So if we start playing ethnic politics, how are we going to end up? So impeachment should not be on grounds of ethnicity. Governance should not be on grounds of ethnicity. We should act as one people, one country, one state. Because if that is not done in any state, and it's done by clannish or ethnic basis, then you will know that we are in for serious crisis, because there will be no Nigeria. But what we want is, look at our national anthem. We are all one person, one people, one country, one nation, great people. Let the politicians, not out of their selfish desires, begin to make divisions. Like it's always said, if there's a football match by Rivers United or so, will we be saying this one is an upland player, this one is a riverine player? If we play football state by state, it will be Rivers State against another state. So let's not emphasize that this. I don't even want to discuss this ethnic and all that. And I'm one of those who push that in our national decision making, and we should begin to remove state of origin, local government of origin, and all that. You are a Nigerian, you are a Nigerian, and that's what we should do.
I think that calls to question the quality of people that those in government have around them. Is this kind of counsel they get from those people around them? They're meant to be advisors, so it raises that question yet again. But we can also look at what is happening of late and still use the law to analyze them, and hopefully they will hear and do what is right. Yesterday we saw the governor visiting the State Assembly quarters, and just right after that we saw the Speaker of the House, Martin Amewule, granting a press briefing saying, well, he wasn't invited, that's the governor was not invited, and this complex or the quarters should not be demolished, that it's in good condition, and the rest. Can you speak to that? Is the governor able to visit the quarters at any time without invitation? And I mean, what does that imply, really?
That facility is a government facility. I don't know of anything in law that stops the governor from going to visit the residential quarters. But the problem is when the witch cries in the night and the child dies in the morning, it's always the feeling that it is that way that cried in the night that killed the child. I know that on a good day, that wouldn't have been an issue. The speaker is just exercising entertaining some fears, and I'm sure the government will not go to demolish as been put up, and the speaker is spreading about. If you demolish, it is Rivers money you used to review. And why are we selling so bad, so fast? And these are people who meet together, eat together, drink together. They were all they were all in one party. So that is why we should go to a more deeper solution, which is we should have politics of ideology. We don't have in many states I see people moving from one party to and the people that are welcoming them are clapping. It is not in the best interest of the country. Politicians should be principled. So I don't give any weight to the fact that there have been demolitions and all that, even though the past history tends to lean towards that in terms of the State Assembly, what has happened to the State Assembly and all that. But like I said, The Constitution has provision for states that are continuously recalcitrant, that are intermittent, and debilitating warfare continuously. The federal government has powers. They know what to do at an appropriate time. So those who are playing this politics with the state should also know that there are constitutional provisions that can take care of their slide.
And it will be interesting to know how the federal government will respond to this imbroglio yet again. But that question perhaps about whether it's ideal or in the eyes of the law for the governor to visit the state assembly quarters would perhaps not arise if it was peacetime, but when conflict arises, it places a question mark on quite a number of things. But Prof, let's switch gears now to look at perhaps other national matters just as critical as Rivers politics, which is the CBN's directive to levy cybercrime charge on all banks, all categories of banks. So many reactions to this, Prof, but in the eyes of the law, particularly with that reference to this being codified in an existing law, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm a draftsman by training, so I heap some of this blame on the draftsmen in the National Assembly. I mean, when you are drafting a new law or an amendment of a law, part of the things you do is to ensure that it does not infract on the Constitution and other existing laws. A situation where you now ask the money that the funds should be sent to the National Security Advisor and all. When we have the TSA, I think that's not well thought out in my view. But beyond that, the state of our economy and society, people are literally dying of hunger. Literally. And I don't know about you. I know how many phone calls I receive in a day, text messages with account details as to where to send money. And many of them are genuine. People are dying. People are in difficulty. Students are being flushed out of school. The economy is very hard and biting on Nigeria. Every government should be wary in increasing a tax or levy or imposing them or taking steps that will touch on the little that is left for the average Nigerian. What is the minimum wage as of today? If that worker has a wife, have one or two children, who pay house rent, will take transport to come to that work, well, how will you be calling for patriotism and dedication?
All right, Prof.
So the point I'm making is, if this cyber security law may well be good, but I think the timing need to be relooked at. And I expect that the president will step in and by an executive order, defer the implementation for now.
All right, Prof, as we begin to wind down, let's just have your take as Leonard Silk on this issue. Before we're speaking to you, we're talking about Daniel Ojukwu of FIJ, who was taken away by the police for 2 days. His family did not know where he was. And later they got to find out it was the police that picked him. The same thing happened to Mr. Shego of First News. That was the military. It took about 3 days, and it's been happening. And I did ask a question to the lawyer we had whether there's anything in the law that provides for picking up someone and making the person incommunicado with his family, at least, no matter the weight of the allegation against that person. I would like you to speak to that. And are the law enforcement struggling with the concept of democracy?
Well, you are a journalist, so you can come from that perspective. You are free. Even there's no fundamental right that is absolute anywhere in the world. The press should be responsible when they are reportage. The police and the security agencies should be professional in what they do. There are knocks on the two sides. But having said that, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides for fundamental right enforcement rules and regime. So you had a world president a few days ago. That's what journalists should come together and do. The guild of editors and all that, they should come together and challenge infractions in the court. That's what the court is there for. Section 6 of the Constitution says so. If any security agency oversteps its bounds, go to court, the court will pronounce so, and you'll be entitled to public apology, you'll be entitled to damages, you'll be entitled to an injunction. Rather than heating up the polity again, the security agencies are against the press or against democracy. Some of these things, we don't have all the information. But when you get to the court, all the information will be available. A learned mind or learned minds will look at it and make appropriate pronouncements.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. As journalists, we come from all perspectives. We explore all perspectives. But we thank you very much for your time and contribution on the program. We've been speaking with Professor Paul Ananaba. Thank you so much.
Thank you.